As you heard me say earlier, we are offering recordings of this, so if you had to miss one of the conference presentations because of a conflict or other reasons, or you just weren't able to take all the notes. I heard one of the attendees saying earlier today that she was going to just listen to the recordings because she couldn't take notes fast enough. So there are recordings being made of all of the events. This room, the breakout room, the other location, which I believe we're calling the Soft Fork venue. And so if you want to get a copy of this, you can go to www.bitcoinsuperconference.com/recordings. So now at this time, I'd also like to present to you our next speaker. Prateek Aggarwal is the Senior Practice Leader for Digital Services and Lead Data Scientist at NIIT. He comes from a background of innovative data science efforts at NIIT since August of 2016 and has participated in pre-sales events of NIIT's digital foresight product to about 30 clients. He leads a data science team that is continuously building algorithms for data sourcing, data quality, personalization in marketing and pricing, and he's focusing on investment banks, insurance, travel, and media. Recently, he has consolidated the efforts of the company in the space of blockchain. So would you please welcome Prateek Aggarwal.
Hello, it's great to be at this conference. I have learned a lot in the last 3 days. And I'm ready to take my lessons back to NIIT. But I also wanted to introduce NIIT to you guys and basically see how we can collaborate together, how you can collaborate with NIIT, and how we can bring new products into the market using the resources of NIIT and your expertise. So I'm going to basically talk about the practice overview about NIIT, and then I'm going to go into a very brief overview of the blockchain. I think we all know what blockchain is, so I don't need to go too much there. But I'm going to talk about 2 use cases. I'm going to talk about triple entry accounting, and I'm going to talk about travel miles. And basically use these 2 use cases to build the concepts around how NIIT is thinking about these things and how NIIT can work with you guys if you have interesting ideas that you want to pitch to the different verticals that NIIT works in. So practice overview about NIIT. NIIT has been in US since 2004. It was incepted in India sometime in 1981. It started off as a company focusing on training of IIT capabilities and also education. And since 2004, it started focusing on IT requirements of 4 verticals in US. And in that area, it basically grew by acquiring new companies that have been active in that area, and also by building technologies and building teams within the US. So right now we have about $250 million in revenue across across the world. In US we have about $150 million in revenue, and we've been growing at a very fast pace. And basically we are focused on 4 different verticals. We are focused on banking, we are focused on insurance, we are focused on travel, and we are focused on media. And in all these 4 areas, we have about 50 different customers that we have acquired over time. And these are, for example, in banking, they're pretty decent-sized banks. And also in travel, we are working with big airlines. So all of these create opportunities. Whenever there's a new technology in the market, there are new products that could be made available to these companies. And because we have relationships with these companies, we can all benefit by bringing these products and these technologies to these companies. I just quickly want to make a joke. I've been following elections in US. I've been in US since '92, and I've been following elections. And as we talk about new technologies and how they will empower people and they will take power away from banks, I always remember the quote from Mitt Romney, where he said that banks are corporations are people too. So keeping that in mind, we want to figure out how these technologies can benefit corporations also. And we want to see whether there are changes from the IIT side that can be made using the blockchain concepts. So for example, we focus on working on data management, we focus on working on analytics, we focus on working on data visualization, and all the different aspects that go into using data and basically leveraging from the data. So I'm going to quickly go over blockchain. So we all know blockchain is a distributed, a system for creating a distributed database where the data can be shared across different participants in the blockchain. And that creates an opportunity for different entities to synchronize with each other very quickly. Again, distributed ledger, it could be public or it could be private, and every node in the network is fully protected, and there's a lot of tools and technologies for having, preventing fraud. So keeping all these concepts in mind, and we all recognize that there are some benefits to blockchain that can be easily carried over to other applications. For example, we recognize it's all software-based, and it's a highly secure environment. There's a very little chance of fraud until you hear about some coin getting hacked. But when you're talking about private blockchains, you can make them pretty fraud-proof. So it enables business processes that can utilize the distributed nature of the blockchain. So for example, IBM did a study where they figured out that over the next 3 years, about 65% banks will be implementing some product or the other using the blockchain. Also, before I worked with the NIIT, I started my career in the supply chain world, where I was basically focusing on retailers and also focusing on the supply chain market. I don't know whether you guys remember, but sometime in 2000, there was a concept called collaborative planning, which was very popular within the supply chain world, where the idea was that different participants within the supply chain should collaborate with each other, but they don't trust each other. So they want to share data with each other, but without trusting each other. And the concept was that basically they can collaborate by sharing their predictions with each other. So all these different concepts that were prevalent at that time could now find the right technology where they can be utilized. So there's at least about a dozen different use cases that are relevant. Most of these use cases are based around, identity protection, ownership protection, fraud management, and also around, of course, the ICO world has become very popular. And also, thinking about healthcare, I saw some presentations about healthcare and also about rewards. So all these have become very interesting applications, some of them go beyond finance, and some of them go into areas which can further empower people. So NIIT's vision is to become a trailblazer in the blockchain world. At least that's my vision for NIIT. And basically, what I want to do within NIIT is build a team that focuses on bringing new technologies and tools to our existing customers, and then create a mechanism so that as we learn from our exercises and the POCs we get involved in, we will be able to take these POCs and start talking about IP and our own intellectual property that we get to build along those lines. Because at some level, all the concepts that are relevant to databases become relevant to blockchain. So, thinking about how you query these databases, how do you extract information out of these databases and make them usable, are all very interesting problems that have not been fully explored yet. So talking about triple entry accounting, like I mentioned, everybody knows about single entry accounting. It's basically, any cashier at a store keeps a record of all the transactions that he conducts. But, the problem is that it's the record of one person that everybody else has to believe, which may or may not be accurate. So that was replaced by double entry accounting around 600 years ago, where people started talking about two ledgers, one being kept by the creditor and the other being kept by the debitor. And basically that created a possibility of at least two ledgers being matched with each other, which again does not solve the problem, because if the two entities start wanting to get, they want to conduct fraud, then they can participate with each other and conduct fraud. So there's always a need for a third party to participate in that exercise. And that's where triple entry accounting comes in, and that's where blockchain can play a role. Because blockchain creates two possibilities. One is it creates the possibility of a new entity entering into that transaction and basically monitoring that transaction. And it also creates the possibility that the blockchain itself can become that third entity to keep a record of those transactions. So Ian Grigg was the person who recognized triple entry accounting and built the concepts early on. And some of my motivation about how to think about triple entry accounting is based on whatever I've read about whatever work he's done. So I'm going to dive a little bit into the implementation details. So one of the interesting things that I have realized is that the popular blockchain frameworks like Bitcoin and Ethereum are probably not very well suited for the finance networks, and there are other frameworks that are probably more relevant for within the finance world. For example, the Hyperledger network, the Hyperledger system, or the R3 Coda, or the multi-chain environment. These are probably much more relevant for within the finance world. So we decided to choose R3 Coda. Part of the reason for choosing R3 Coda, of course, is that Ian Grigg has been working with R3 Coda for a while. And so all the concepts that are required for making triple entry accounting successful are already present within R3 Coda. So the general nature of a triple entry accounting architecture is that the person who is selling the instrument passes that information to the blockchain, and the person who's getting the instrument also gets their information and passes their information onto the blockchain. And then that combined information is passed to a notary, and that notary basically authorizes that transaction, and all this information gets stored on the blockchain. So Coda is very easy to use, and it has an excellent documentation. So if you want to use Coda, it's really very useful. So I would suggest that. Some of the concepts within the world of Coda is the concept of a state, where a state is a well-known fact that gets stored in the vault that is present in every node. So every node basically becomes a store of all the states, and every transaction basically has certain states that act as inputs and certain states that act as outputs. And each of these states have some contracts associated with it. So every transaction has to satisfy multiple contracts that are part of its input as well as part of its output. So it creates an environment that is a little more complex than some of the other available technologies, but it's very suitable for making sure that the triple entry accounting system works flawlessly. So the contract validity, basically the transaction has to be validated by the contract, and that basically helps in making sure that the transactions are all meeting certain requirements that are satisfied by the concept of the contract, which we all know through the Ethereum world also. So a transaction is basically a proposal to modify the ledger. And again, once you've decided that that's the definition of a transaction, then you basically, all these other concepts start making sense around the concept of the transaction. So again, notaries are basically people who are either validating the transaction or making sure that double spending doesn't take place. And so there's multiple parties participating in the exercise of, reducing the auditing cost. So now I'm going to talk briefly about the MILES program, and also talk about how NIIT is thinking about it. So we all know, we've been hearing, you guys must be on rewards.com's booth, and you might have seen what these guys are doing. And The only advantage NIIT has is that we have existing customers, and they are coming to us saying, we want to use blockchain to build a rewards program. And because of our relationship with them and because we understand their business, we are at a better position to implement some of these things for them. So the vision is basically to build a blockchain environment which makes the different participants within the rewards program world to interact with each other, and also make sure that all the transactions are being reconciled properly. Because the biggest challenge within the rewards world is that the value of the reward points changes when it moves from one participant in the chain to another participant, and also its value changes each time it exchanges hands. So all these factors make it very hard to reconcile this information, although we somehow don't see all this because we just keep reimbursing our points, but the process is pretty complicated. So the benefits of blockchain are that can benefit the rewards program world is that it reduces the costs of conducting transactions. It also makes the business more transparent and more frictionless. And also it all can be conducted in real time because, in reality, when these transactions happen, it's very hard to make sure that they are happening in real time. In fact, sometimes the reconciliation can end up happening over months, not even days, but over months. So, reducing that time is very important for these companies to make sure that their books are right, because these reward points end up as liabilities on their books. So they are also in the mode where they want to get rid of these reward points and clear the books, basically. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the implementation side. So again, I want to just point out, the advantages of thinking about a loyalty program. And the advantages are that, there are multiple records, and reconciling all these records is a time-consuming exercise. So having contracts in place that, that are available, for example, in the world of Ethereum, are very useful in making sure that all these reconciliations are happening fast and happening frictionlessly. So, so we used the concept of Ethereum contracts to build a blockchain. And now we are basically planning to introduce that to our existing airlines customers and to our the hotels and casinos we work with. And hopefully, we'll be able to find traction because we've been working with them for a long time. So technology is used. Ethereum blockchain is what we have used. And for smart contracts, we have used Remix. And for front end, we are basically using all the usual front end technologies like Java and HTML. And so all these technologies have helped us in making all these the two use cases real. And so these technologies have been specifically used for the Miles Reward program. And hopefully, as we learn from these exercises, we'll be able to translate more use cases and make them available to our existing customers. So we have a multi-pronged approach for how to think about blockchain. First step in that is creating POCs and engaging our customers using the POCs that we create. Second approach is, of course, building algorithms and tools for querying these different databases and also mining these different databases. And so we have started patenting some of the tools and technologies along those lines. We are also always looking to partner with large companies because we know that they have certain knowledge base that we can benefit from. And then on the other hand, we also like to partner with small companies because we know that they can move faster, but they might not have certain skill sets that we can complement, and also we can give them access to our existing customers. So that is the main message I want to carry here. It's a very simple message. If you have interesting use cases and you want them to be pursued by some airlines or some insurance companies or some banks, then please talk to us, and then maybe we can work together and figure out how to present these solutions to our existing customers. So that's all I have to say. Thanks a lot.
Hold on. Are there any questions? We have time for Prateek. Please step to the microphone. Again, we're being recorded. If you have any questions for Prateek, and you too, Craig, if you have any.
Yeah, actually I do. Since I count beans for a living,
Okay.
I'd like to know a little bit more about the triple entry process and how that might be implemented. We've seen it on the enterprise level, and it looks like everybody is doing it with the blockchain, but most of my clients fall in the under $5 million range.
Yeah.
So how do you see this impacting that segment of the market for accounting services and I suppose smart contracts and all other kinds of blockchain technologies that are interrelated with the triple entry system?
Sure. So what I see personally is that as we, generate revenue using our larger clients, we'll be able to build solutions that become cheaper over time and become available to the smaller players over time also.
What do you think will be the integration with existing accounting products? Most products are double entry. How do you think that will work? Will there be, or do you foresee
So the advantage, again, like I said, the advantage we have is that we are working with some large clients, and these whatever technologies these clients are using, the vendors have to comply with whatever the requirements are for these companies. Am I making sense?
I think so. Yeah, go right ahead.
Yeah, so the idea is that as we work with these larger clients, basically the vendors that are supplying to these larger clients have to also change their business model. And as they change their business model, we'll be able to percolate all the ideas to a lower level.
Is one of the obstacles the banking system? Because since the banking system is the means of interfacing for most small businesses,
Yeah.
And that's how most are getting their information is back from their bank.
Yeah.
For any automated system, which is where most of my clients are going, I'm trying to take them that direction.
Yeah.
Then would that mean that I believe I lost my mic for a moment.
Okay.
That we'll have to see blockchain migrate to that level through the banks? Do you foresee the banks as one of the obstacles for that technological shift?
I wouldn't say they're an obstacle. They're also figuring out where they want to place their bets. I mean, they have to spend money to make the transition also. But they also understand that there's a benefit that the auditing cost is a huge cost. It's not something that is peanuts. It is a big part of the book of the cost they incur, and they are also very interested in reducing the auditing cost. And also, it makes the business a little more transparent. So all that drives their interest in making these things happen. But they have to find the right companies that they can work with to make, because they're not very technologically savvy also. They are more financially savvy. So, how to bring these technologies into play with their existing business is something they learn through partnering with companies like us.
And what you said earlier about the banks and their auditing, I would agree with that. I've seen some horrific banking errors over the last 20 years,
Definitely.
19 years.
Definitely.
And their systems are good, but there are opportunities for collusion because that does sometimes happen, not often, but it does happen. And also issues with just systems that just go awry. Somebody just puts it in the wrong account or whatever, or just an entry error at some
No, I mean,
level.
we don't even need to go to banks. If I go and talk to the accounting department in my own company, they will tell me secrets of how, you can conduct fraud in all these different areas.
Yes.
So, accounting world, has a lot of knowledge they have picked up on how fraud gets conducted. So all that has to be translated into, smart contracts and basically has to be implemented into a mechanism so that, all this can be prevented. So, so basically the idea is how do you reduce corruption using blockchain?
Yeah, I think that's something we can all agree. And I'd love to see that happen at a lot of different levels in society. Does anybody else have questions for Prateek? Then I think we're done.
So please, if nothing else, at least note down my email and drop me an email, and I'll want to continue a conversation with you further. And you can always give me a call. I've put my phone number right up there. So take a picture, and please feel free to contact me anytime. So
thank you, Prateek.
Yeah.
That's a very interesting presentation. I have an announcement to make here to remind you that you can register for our next super conference at www.bitcoinsuperconference.com early. You get a discount if you sign up now. I think you get the best pricing possible, so be sure to take advantage of that if you're interested in coming in. I've heard a lot of people say that they were really, really impressed with the content at this. So if you feel that way and you want to take advantage of the next opportunity to be exposed to this level of content, then be sure to go to that bitcoinsuperconference.com/early. You know what? I don't have the date for that. I've been told it's going to be in September, but I'm not absolutely certain of the exact date. So I'm sorry I don't have that information. But go to the website. It should be on the website when you get there.